Okay, so what I want to do in this video is give you an overview of the course and walk you through some of the key points on the syllabus. This is the kind of thing that we would typically do on the first day of class, but I want to have this posted in case anybody wants to check that out before we start in July. All right, here we go. It's not working. So yeah, just once again, welcome. If you haven't already watched my welcome video, please do that. I know it's awkward, but bear with me. I'm an elder millennial and still learning how to do all of these tech things. All right, so just very briefly, here's all our instructor info. So there's going to be me. Again, you can call me Will, and our two teaching assistants, Joe and Nagar. So all their info is here. It's also on the syllabus and on our Quirkus page. And we will be I will be having office hours, but this is the timing of those is going to be based on the intake poll that you all are filling out, and I'm going to try to pick times that the most people are available. But don't worry if you're not able to make those times. I'll also take appointments, so those will be posted as soon as I have those hours scheduled. And of course, since we can't meet in person, all of those office hours will take place virtually. Office hours will be on Blackboard Collaborate, and any appointments I can take either over Blackboard Collaborate, Skype, or the platform of your choice. We can figure that out when we're scheduling the appointment. Zoom works too, so any of those are options. Just really briefly, the learning outcomes of the course. Again, all of this can be found on the syllabus and on our Quirkus page. But I hope by the end of the course you're going to understand the definitions of and the differences between various happiness and well-being constructs. There's a lot of different definitions in the literature, and so we're going to spend some time talking about those differences and also some of the similarities and overlap between the different ways that researchers have looked at these constructs. Also, understanding and describing the history and the utility of studying happiness and flourishing. Positive psych is both a very new field, but also asking age-old questions, and so we're going to spend some time talking about that and looking at the history of positive psychology and how it's changed over the years. We'll talk a lot about how cognitive, emotional, and motivational processes impact well-being. Of course, these three categories are all interrelated, but this is a nice way to break up lectures, and so we'll focus on these three different topics for some of the first half of the course. Then we'll also, throughout the course, try to interweave individual and cultural differences in well-being. A lot of research, we look at mean differences based on interventions or manipulations, but within that we also want to look at how interventions and different strategies for positivity differentially impact individuals and people from different cultures. So really looking at those individual difference and cultural moderators on these processes. And then really, this is a really important thing close to my heart, is that I hope that out of this class you get some sense of how we can really apply the psychological research that we're learning about to promote both our own well-being and also the well-being of those around us. I hope that there's some practical value in this course too. As much as I love to talk about theory, I think it's also really important that we think about how we can apply this in our own lives. And I figure we all want to be happier, so hopefully you can get something out of that. Each time I teach this course, I get a little something more, and I think I become a little bit happier as I use some of these strategies in my own life. All right, so those are the learning outcomes that I hope you are able to meet at the end of this course. These are the topics we're going to cover. This is just straight from the syllabus, but if you're interested, we're going to start with talking about what is the field of positive psychology and defining that, turning to definitions of happiness and well-being, and then hitting on those three main categories of positive thinking, positive emotions, and then also motivation and goals. Then we'll turn to thinking about peak experiences. This is going to be where we talk about concepts like flow and mindfulness, and also tying that into mind-body relations, because those topics are very interrelated. And we'll turn to talking about the self-esteem, and self-compassion, and meaning, and authenticity will be in that lecture. Then turning to strength and resilience. There's really a lot to cover there, but from personal character strengths to how humans are resilient in the face of major crises. And we'll also turn to talking about pro-social emotions and behavior. Really, this could be a whole class, but we'll talk about some of the main points in that area of literature. Then turning to positive institutions and environments. We're going to talk a lot in this course about how, although positive psych has been said to have 3 pillars, one of those pillars being talking about positive institutions and how those can support well-being. This pillar has been largely neglected, so we'll talk a bit about why, but then also talk about some of the research that has been done in this area. And then in the last lecture, we'll wrap up by talking about well-being in the digital age and also future directions for the field of positive psychology. Course structure. You might have heard this as a hybrid course, but what does that mean? It means that we're going to do a mix of synchronous and asynchronous content. So synchronous means it's going to be happening at the same time for all of us, and asynchronous means that you can do that on your own time. And so you still have to do these things, but when you do them is up to you. So for lectures, you have the choice of either doing this in a synchronous way or an asynchronous way. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays from noon to 2, I'll be live streaming lecture content, and so you can either watch that live and use the chat functions to ask questions and interact, or if that timing doesn't work for you, either because you're in a different time zone or have other commitments or whatever that may be, you can watch the recordings of those lectures at a different time. I may also play around with trying to pre-record some lecture content and post that, but I'll let you know if I do that. Really, this is just a chance for me to try out the video software and get better at this. Any readings and videos will all be asynchronous, so any other course content you can read or watch at your own pace. So these videos here are ones that I would typically have shown during a lecture, but I won't post a video and show that live when you can watch that in higher quality on your own time. So those will be part of the required content, and those will be on our course weekly pages, so you can find all of that easily. All of the assignments, including positivity exercises, the final paper, any assessments, those will all be asynchronous, so you can do them at your own pace. There, of course, are still deadlines, but when you work on that is up to you. I see that this is missing an S here, so just ignore that. All right, there. All right, and then also the one part of this course that is required to be synchronous is Journal Club, and so I'm going to talk more about what Journal Club is in just a minute. But important here is the timing is flexible. So I understand that if you're in a different time zone and you're not even awake during the typical class time, you don't have to wake up and be there. As part of the intake poll for this course, you're going to fill out when you are available, and I'll group students who are available at the same time into groups. So you do need to meet with others at the same time, but the timing of that is flexible. So again, hybrid course, most things are asynchronous. You do have the choice to engage in lectures synchronously, and Journal Club is the one's required synchronous part. Turning to course materials. So we're going to use our Queercus website for everything, so check that regularly. Lectures will be all posted there in BB Collaborate. I'll also post any slides I use for lecture. You can download those and take notes on them, but just please don't post them publicly on the internet. This has happened in the past, so please don't do that. Article readings, these are also all going to be posted on the Canvas or Queercus website, and these will all be under the library course reserves. You can see the whole list of readings in the syllabus and also on Canvas, and so you can look at those there, but the actual PDFs and web links to the articles are under the library course reserves tab on Queercus. And then, as I said before, there also may be some videos and podcasts, things that I typically would have shown during the 3-hour in-class lecture, but I'll now post these as separate links so you can watch them on your own time and in higher quality. And just a note here, the article reading list may look long, and so on some days you have 2 or 3 articles to read, but made a very conscious effort to make sure that those articles were not long, and so in many cases articles are only 5 to 10 pages each, so don't be overwhelmed by the length of the list. All right, marking scheme. This is probably what you're most interested in, and so I'll just go through this, and this will all make more sense after I do the next slides on each of the assignments, but I did want to put this up front. So really this course breaks down into 3 or I guess 4 main things. We're doing a journal club that together will be worth 10% of your grade, both through leading your journal club on one of the weeks and also through participation. We're going to do some positivity exercises. These are worth 6%. We're going to have a midterm assessment and a final assessment. Those are worth 26 and 28% each, and a final paper that can either be a book review paper or a research review paper. I need to update this slide so that's reflected properly. So I'm going to talk through each of these assignments quickly. So for journal club, on weeks 2 through 5 of this term, we're going to hold what I'm calling journal club. There's going to be 5 of these total. And on these weeks, students are going to meet in groups of 5 to 6 to talk about one of the articles that's assigned for that week. So this is one of your regular readings, and it'll be indicated with a star on the reading list and in the syllabus, and this is the one that you'll prepare for journal club, and you'll be talking about with your group members. So your groups are going to be assigned based on your responses to that intake poll, and so this will allow students to meet at a time that works for them. Obviously we're going to need to be a little bit flexible, but you can meet at a time that works for you. If you would like to meet during the time that you've already allotted for this class, that's absolutely an option, so groups can choose to meet on Thursdays from 2 to 3 p.m. During our regular class time, because we're only using the first part for a lecture. But if that doesn't work for you, you have the option to meet at other times with folks in a similar time zone or have similar work schedules. So again, make sure you fill out that poll so you can be put in a group that works for you. So then after you fill out that poll and I group you together, then I'll send out a Google Sheet, and that's where you'll sign up for which week you want to lead your journal clubs, or each student is going to lead for 1 week. And so this is just a comic that I put in to note that the idea here is that no one wants to meet at 8 a.m. and perhaps our regular class time is 8 a.m. your time, and so the goal here is to, again, make this something that is at a time that works for you, because nothing is fun when it's too early, in my opinion anyway. All right. So there will be 5 meetings total. Each group member is going to lead one of them, and what I mean when you say you're going to lead one is that you're going to hand in an assignment based on that, and also you're going to be in charge of facilitating the conversation on that week. So what you'll do for that assignment is you're going to write a summary and an analysis of the assigned article. There's specific instructions for what I'm looking for in this on Canvas. And you'll also find and summarize an article that is related in some way, either builds on the article that you read or contradicts it or has an application of it. Really, that's up to you. Then you're also going to create 4 questions for your group to talk about the original article, and so things that can spark a conversation. These are things that, usually the best questions are ones that don't have a right or wrong answer, because there's a lot to talk about then. So you're trying to really think about questions that are going to spark interesting conversation about the article. And then you're going to, and then when your group meets, you're going to be in charge of facilitating that conversation with those questions. And then within 48 hours after that meeting, you'll hand in this assignment. You'll also keep a few notes on what you all talked about and hand that in as well. Just as a quick note, some groups may have six people, just to give us a little padding in case people drop, and so if that's the case, people may need to double up and be 2 leaders on 1 week, and that's totally fine. In that case, you'll just each hand in assignment, and you can pick your 2 best questions each and talk about those as a group. Right. And so obviously it's important for people to attend the journal club, otherwise it won't work and it won't be any fun, but of course life happens, and so everyone can drop 1, and so you won't lose participation points if you miss if you miss one of these. If you need to miss more, for whatever reason, please get in touch with me and we can figure something out if it's an emergency. All right. The next sort of set of assignments is these positivity exercises, and this is really your chance to apply positive psychology in your own life. And so what these are is there's 7 of these total, but you only need to do 5 of them, so you could do 1 per week if you wanted to. And so for each one, you have 1 week to do it. So I'll introduce it during the class that exercise is relevant. So for example, in the class on positive emotions, we're going to talk about savoring, and so that week's exercise will be about savoring, and so I'll introduce it in that lecture, and then you'll have 1 week from then to do that exercise if you choose to. So these will usually be something that you practice, and then you engage in writing out answers to a few of the questions about your experience engaging with that strategy or in that positivity exercise. So you're going to try out one of the strategies in the course, and you're going to reflect on your experience doing this. And so if you would like to skip these entirely, you're welcome to do that. One of the things we're going to learn is that these strategies really only work if you're motivated and invested in them. And so if you're not and you're just doing it for the grade, that's not going to be very helpful. So if you would like to skip these entirely, you can, and then we'll just move that 6% that this is worth to your final paper, making it worth 36% total. So you're welcome to skip these entirely. If you do choose to engage in them, which I highly recommend, then you only need to do the 5 out of 7. If you want to do all 7, you're welcome to. In this case, we would just drop the 2 lowest grades. All right, so those are the positivity exercises. And then you have a final paper that you'll do. And for this, you have 2 choices. You can either do sort of a typical research review paper where you pick a topic within positive psychology that we didn't go into depth in this course, and you dive into that. Or you can do a book review paper, and if you choose this option, what you would do is you pick a book on positive psychology that's written for a popular audience. So I have a list of pre-approved books you can choose from, or you can pick one that you want to review. If you do that, you just need to get my approval on that to make sure it's a good one for this assignment. But what you would do is for a book review paper, you would write a book review of that. You would say whether you thought it was a good representation of the literature. You would talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the book. Again, there's lots more details about each of these assignments and what I would be looking for on Canvas, but the goal here is to give you some choice in which type of assignment you want to do. You also have the option, if you would like, this is totally optional, to hand in a proposal for your final paper. This would be a chance for you to get feedback from me on your research paper idea or your choice of book. The only time that this proposal wouldn't be optional and that you would be required to do it is if you're picking a book to review that's not on the pre-approved list, and then you would at least need to submit a proposal that says what the name of the book is. You don't need to write more than that unless you want more feedback. So really this is just a chance to get feedback if you want it. But again, it is not a required proposal. You don't get a grade for it. All right, so again, those are the 2 choices of the papers. We'll talk a lot more about those as we get closer. And then the last assignments are the midterm and final assessments. And so unlike during a typical school year when we would meet in person, these are not going to be a typical final exam. And so what these are going to be is a set of short answer questions and an essay question. You'll have some choice. Once again, here you might notice I like to try to give a lot of choice where that's possible, and so you would complete 4 out of 5 short answer questions and 1 out of 2 essay questions for both the midterm and the final assessments. These would be based on lecture and any other required content, including readings, videos, etc. The final assessment will be cumulative, but it's going to emphasize more of the material from the second half of the course. Both of these assessments will be open notes, open readings, but not open Google in the sense of I don't want you to, look up a bunch of extra information. I want these assessments to be based on what we've learned in class. And so you don't want to be Wikipediaing things or looking up additional articles, but you want to be focusing on the readings and notes from this class. For the midterm, you'll have that'll be open for 5 days, so you can work on it as much or as little as you want within those five days. For the final, you'll have 7 days to complete that. These shouldn't take you more than the 3 hours each that you would normally have in a typical in-class exam, but you certainly can work for more or less time on that. The goal here is not to give you so much time that you work on it for hours and hours, but that we give you enough time that you have the flexibility to find time to work on that with your busy schedules. And so this is going to be, so what the exam will be is I'll upload a file, a Word doc that has the questions. You can download that, answer them, and then upload it when you're ready to hand that in. So again, we'll have lots more information on this posted on Canvas, but just a brief overview of what we'll be doing for those assessments. And really these assessments are assessing your understanding of theory and your ability to apply that and to connect ideas across course themes, right? It's open book, so I'm not going to be assessing memorization or anything like that. There's no multiple choice. It's really about your thinking and your understanding of the theory and your ability to apply that. All right, so once again, here's the marking scheme. Now that you know what these assignments are, this might be a little more meaningful to you. So again, the journal club is worth 10% total. Positivity exercises worth 6%. Again, you can skip those entirely and move that 6% to the book review paper, making that 36% total. Then we have the midterm and final assessment. And again, the book review paper can also be a research review paper. I just forgot to update this slide there. All the due dates are posted here as well, and in the syllabus and on Canvas, and in as many places as I could possibly put them. I don't know if you're like me, I have a hard time with dates, so I like to write it down as many places as possible. All right. And then again, we already talked about the course structure, but this again might make more sense now that we've talked about each of the assignments, right? So the journal club being the one required synchronous thing, but again, the timing is flexible to work with your schedule. Fingers crossed that works out. All right. Course policies now. This is sort of the even more boring part than what we've been talking about, but it is important to go over briefly. And again, all of this is in the syllabus in a lot more detail. Late assignments, those will be deducted 10% for each day late, but midterm and final assessments, those need to be handed in on time. Those I do not accept late, except in extreme circumstances. You can see all the policies for any other special accommodations, medical, religious, personal, all the formal languages in the syllabus, but really what that all ultimately boils down to is if you need an accommodation or you need extra time on something, get in touch with me as soon as you know that so that we can, if possible, work out a plan for that. It's a lot harder to help make accommodations after the fact than if we can know before. Of course, if it's something that happens suddenly and you don't know ahead of time, I understand. But if it is something that you know is coming up or you know is a concern, please let me know and we can work it out. My 24/7 grade dispute policy, this doesn't mean you should argue about your grades 24/7. It means that once a grade is posted, I ask that you wait 24 hours before contacting me or one of the TAs about a question about your grade or a complaint about the grade. This just gives us a chance to breathe a sigh of relief when we're done grading, and also you a chance to really think about your questions and phrase those in a respectful way. I found that having this policy really helps students to ask their questions in ways that get the best answers from us. And then, so that's the 24, and the 24/7 is to wait 24 hours before you make that request for a grade change, and then the 7 refers to you need to make that request within 7 days after that grade is handed back. You can't wait till the end of the term and then ask for a regrade on all of your assignments. So certainly you don't have time for that, unfortunately. So yeah, you really need to keep up on that. If there's a concern about the grade, you should know that right away, and then you can ask us about that. Academic integrity, this is really, really important. I can't tell you how sad it makes me every time I catch a person who is plagiarizing. It's not something that I want to do. I don't want to do the extra paperwork. I don't want that heart-wrenching Skype call with you. You need to write in your own words. So really important when you're paraphrasing. Paraphrasing does not mean use a thesaurus to look up a word, find a different word, and plug that in the exact same sentence. That's not going to fly. So you really need to take time to write in your own words for your papers, for your assessments, and not to copy and paste, and to be really careful in how you write and really make sure that you're using your own voice. I don't say this just because I'm a stickler for plagiarism and for that, but because it's really hard to assess your understanding and your own knowledge if you're not writing in your own words and expressing your own ideas. So that's really, really important. If you're ever concerned about that, talk to me. If you're not sure how to write in your own words, this is something that I can help with, the folks at the Writing Center can help with, and this is a really important skill to be developing, and I want you to use this class as an opportunity to work on your writing. All right. Participation and conduct in class. Please be respectful. I'm not going to elaborate a ton here beyond that, but if people are being rude or discriminatory in any way, I don't have any tolerance for that, and I will pull you out of class and we will address that. So that's course policies. Just an announcement here that if anybody's interested in being a registered note taker, this is a really important thing that you can do. This is good for you. Studies have shown that when people take notes for others, they take better notes and they tend to do better in the class themselves. It's also something you can put on your resume or CV. And then also it's just a good service to do for others. And as we're going to learn in this class, doing pro-social actions makes us feel good too. So if you want to boost your well-being a little bit, you could sign up to do this. So all the information is here and also in our syllabus and on Canvas. So with that, I'll wrap up this overly long but important video with the things that you can ask me anything. Don't hesitate to reach out at any time. I really enjoy being helpful, and so please don't hesitate to email me or the TAs with any and all questions, except things that can be easily found in the syllabus. So please just check there first. I took a lot of time to try to make that comprehensive and to make our Canvas website easy to navigate and easy to find things. We have a whole page of frequently asked questions, so please just check there first. If it's not there or you can't find it, then don't hesitate to reach out, because we're really happy to help. So with that, thank you very much, and again, I'll see you in class.